Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bears on Tap, a podcast about the Chicago Bears presented to you by On Tap Sportsnet. I'm your host, Brandon Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at Bdon300, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts Ron at Loose on Tap and Quinten at Buttkiss Stats. First, we'll check in with Ron. It's been a while. I know you've been swamped with baseball. The season is almost coming to an end, and we get a little bit more Ron over here. So how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, as quickly as I lose baseball off of my to-do list, I gain hockey as the Blackhawks are now.
Yeah.
And in full swing. It never ends. But no, man, I'm doing good. I'm excited. The Bears are 2-1. Got to take in the game at Soldier Field over the weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed watching the Bears get a W. And yeah, man, I'm doing all right. It's good to be back on with you guys.
You're going to have to talk for the rest of the episode because Nico Horner just tied the game up at the same time as Aaron Judge hit number 61. So we'll leave the baseball talk right there. We'll get to Mr. X's and O's. Quinten, how are you today, my guy?
Doing good, man. Glad the Bears are sitting at 2-1 amidst all the other drama that is being a Bears fan. But I'm doing great today.
Yeah. And you were out last week as a wedding. How was the wedding? Good little.
It was beautiful. It's beautiful down there.
Trip away from home. Where'd you get to go?
Destin, Florida. I was Florida man for the whole weekend. So
Hopefully not, but yeah. Well, prayers up for the people down in Florida right now. They got a lot of stuff going on, but like you said with the Bears, dude, a lot of stuff going on our home front. Bears right now. Justin Fields can't seem to get out of his own way on the field and in the press room. He seems to not be saying any of the right things at the moment, and at the end of the day, like you see in my header of my name, we are 2-1. Maybe not the best 2-1 team in 2-1 history, but the fact of the matter is we have an opportunity to be 3-1 if we can go out there and beat the Giants. And after seeing the Giants on Monday Night Football, which I'm sure everyone had the opportunity to do, not scared going into that game, but there's nobody in this league that should be scared playing us, right?
Yeah, I mean, until we see more passing offense, I mean, the Bears don't have a reliable aspect of their game to lean on against a good team. Now, luckily, we're not playing a good team this week, but we're playing a team that we can beat or can lose to. You know, it's kind of a toss-up, and I feel like the Bears are going to win this one. But like you said,
hammer the tie after that statement. We can lose, and we can win. Just put a little bit on the tie.
Last weekend, I was almost like my predictions coming true because in the preseason prediction, I had Bears and Texans tying. I was like, "Oh,
it is true.
It's going to happen."
You were wildly close.
Yeah, and then before we get into this week's game, give both of you guys whatever order you want to go in. Give me your guys' just thoughts from last week's game because another stinky one, another ugly one, but you still find a way to win a football game. And 2-1 going into week 4, and I think after the Giants, it's the Vikings, and they have not looked great either. So,
yeah, I mean, again, sometimes you got to win ugly, and that's what the Bears have been able to do. They've been able to find ways to just get the job done. I mean, this past week, right? Texans get the ball, and it looks like they have a chance, and Roquan with the interception to seal the game and get the Bears in position to win it. So, I mean, it's never going to be pretty. I mean, especially when you pretty much bare bones in terms of talent. This team was ripped to its studs in the offseason by the new regime, and yet they're buying in. You can tell when a team that is lacking more talent than some of the opponents they played is competing as hard as they are. It's really, really, really hard to say like, hey, that they're not buying in because they're clearly buying into what Eberflus and what Getsy and what Williams and all these guys are preaching on the coaching staff. It's just a matter of executing and a little banged up in week 3 too, right? No Jalen Johnson. I think he's starting to earn a lot more respect around the NFL, which it's about fucking time.
Yeah,
but it just goes to show, right? They do the next man up mentality, and so far it's paid off. Sure, they haven't. The Texans and the Niners might not be world beaters, but you never know, right? It's the NFL. Everybody's competitive. Everybody's a good team on paper, and again, I remember week 1, everybody talking about the Niners are the superior football team. and
They stink this year, dude.
yeah, they're not good. So it's kind of at that point right now, and I heard this a lot just kind of in general chatter surrounding the NFL. I don't think anybody truly knows if anybody's good yet. Like, there's like 3 or 4 teams that we know are good, and then everybody else is still just trying to figure it out. And who knows? Yeah, it's the mid-off. But I'll tell you what, the Bears are looking okay in the mid-off so far. So it's and with no
right
passing
in the middle.
Yeah,
what's that song? Meet me in the middle.
Yeah, like I mean, hell, even in the case of just and Christopher Morel goes deep now too. Cubbies are starting to do stuff now that we're live, but it's one of those things where like it really is a mid-off. But when you're the Bears and run for over 200 yards against the Texans, like
that's Chicago,
it doesn't matter.
Football.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how bad your passing offense is. It clearly was enough to get the job done, and the defense played well enough too. So you love to see it. But yeah, man, hey, it might be an ugly 2-1, but 2-1 is still 2-1.
Yes, it is. Quinten, how about you, my guy?
Yeah, I'm sitting right there with you. I mean, 2-1 is a good place to be right now if you're the Bears. You're sitting there saying we have a ragtag group essentially of guys who were a bunch of small signings and free agency and a clearly rebuilding roster, and they're fighting like hell for this coaching staff, and they're buying into what they're selling, which is a great sign. One of the things that I really like to see, and I think is kind of getting overlooked amidst all the issues taken with the Bears' lack of passing, is that they might be the most efficient run offense in football right now. And I mean, there's a concept here that I think we're forgetting about, that, a lot of Bears fans in the past few years, especially myself included, have kind of been sitting here saying, this makes sense. Why don't we do it more? The run's working, run the football, I mean, so it's like, I'd love to see Justin Fields get all the pass attempts so he gets all the experience and develops as fast as possible, or we know as fast as possible whether he's the guy or not. But
yeah,
when you're talking about a head coach who, I mean, we just saw David Goy get fired after 1 year winning what, 7 games last year? Head coach ain't interested in development more than winning. He needs to be interested in development to a degree, but winning is what he's here to do. And it's the fastest way to get more job security. So I think they're going to keep running the football till someone stops them. Because why wouldn't? Right now, I mean, on early down rushing, they are getting something like 0.11 EPA per play. There's only I think that ranks 16th in the NFL for passing on early downs. That's how efficient their run game is they're more efficient running on early downs than 16 other teams are at passing on early downs.
Yeah,
which is a big stat. Like that's running is insanity. Not more efficient than passing.
Yeah,
straight up. It's a small sample size, and it'll probably come back down to average, but prove it up. I mean, when you're running it this well, make sure it's not the fluke before you say it's going to be a fluke, is kind of my mindset on it. And I am starting to worry about Justin Fields, which makes me sick to my stomach to even say. When I'm watching him right now, I'm just thinking about a quote from a great American classic film, The Replacements, about quicksand, and just the harder he's fighting, the lower he's sinking. And it's just, I don't know what the answer is to that. I mean, the guy's clearly fighting like hell to fix whatever the issues are. I just hope he's not getting burnt out in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is a terrible, terrible analysis, but this is only an analysis that you'll get from the mind of Bdon. Is Bears fans thought that we were getting college football playoff, broken ribs, Clemson game, Justin Fields. And up to this point, we have gotten Justin Fields against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game. Like, it hasn't even been close. And part of that is him. Part of that is, like you said, Quinn, the opportunities. They haven't been there. You're not really going to get into any sort of rhythm if you're throwing the ball only 11 times a game or 18 times a game. We have the lowest pass attempts in the entire league, and it's not even close. But it is tough even having the conversation to even utter the words like, yeah, if he's not the guy, we need to be able to find that out and move on, because it's so quick. And it's like, yeah, in this league, what's the average career? 3 years. Obviously, I'm not saying Justin Fields going to be out of the league by year 3, but the clock is ticking, and he has continued to just take steps back. Like, we thought after year 1 he'd be getting better. This is a valid point, but also not the end all be all. Scott said he had 3 better receivers in college. This is true, but like Justin Fields has still been at the top of his like position from a very young age. So for him to be playing like this, and then you see Trevor Lawrence go out to LA and smack the shit out of the Chargers last week, and honestly, there hasn't really been many good quarterbacks from that class. So it's really just me seeing Lawrence, and then that's the guy like we always talk about that he's been compared to. It's like, fuck.
So with the Lawrence stuff, there's one thing that hangs in the back of my mind, and it might just be me being like a very biased Bears fan who wants to see Justin succeed. But every step of either of their careers, whenever Lawrence has taken a step, gotten better, Fields has done the same, you know? So that's something that kind of gives me some optimism of like, he puts in the
tinfoil hat.
Matched this guy over. Yeah, tinfoil hat. He's matched him over and over and over. The timeline might not be the same right now, but I think the process is, you know, I think that the talent's there, the want to is there, the intelligence is there. And at that point, it's just a question of how long does it take when I look at it. And that's what I hope is the truth.
Yeah, and on top of it, too, kind of going back to Scott's point, I'm going to bring it up on the screen here again really quick. He said 3 times better receivers in college compared to now. I mean, you look at 2 of the names that he did have in college are balling out in the NFL. I mean, Garrett Wilson has looked good so far for the New York Jets, and even Chris Olave had a really nice week last week for the New Orleans Saints. I saw something really interesting, and I believe damn it, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Emmanuel Acho, to be honest with you. But he brought up a very interesting and good point that I think we're starting to see a lot more of in the NFL in today's game, where the air attack does dominate and really dictate a lot of NFL games. Josh Allen became Josh Allen when he got Stephon Diggs. You're seeing Jalen Hurts now with an A.J. Brown ball out, right? You're starting to see some correlation of these quarterbacks able to take that next step with that next dependable weapon. And I think that's what the Bears are hoping he finds with either Darnell Mooney this season, even if it is just for one season and Mooney eventually becomes the 2 and they go get that number 1 guy. But right now, it really is kind of just like figuring out who the hell they have, right? I mean, it's been Equanimus St. Brown and the Funky Bunch to this point, because like he's been arguably their leading receiver in terms of targets. It's crazy to think that's the case, and they're still winning football games. I think as the season goes on, if Fields fails to take any steps forward, I don't know if we're going to see Justin Fields take that, you know, wow, like he's there by week 17. I don't think we're going to see that this year. But if there's enough on tape of saying, yeah, he's got now that full year in a new system, he's going to have that same system next year. He knows what he needs to fix. He knows what he needs to do. It's on the Bears front office to go get him that number 1 weapon that he can trust. And then maybe, just maybe, as we've seen around the NFL from a lot of guys who are talented, who work just like Justin Fields, right? Oh, well, he's not perfect as a prospect. And I don't know, is he going to make it, right? I remember all the criticism of Josh Allen and all the criticism of Jalen Hurts last year. Those guys are 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Fuck, even Tua. Look at Tua and what he's doing. They go out and get Tyreek Hill. They go draft Jalen Waddle. And now Tua's arguably an NFL MVP frontrunner because of how well he's played for 3 weeks. Two and on, right? Like, it truly goes to show, right, that your playmakers sometimes for a quarterback are your best friend as long as Fields takes those steps forward. And I think this is a perfect week to do it. And because we're kind of joking off air and dabbling, right, about the personnel the Giants have on defense, really good defensive line, some guys that are at linebacker, and a bit of an aging secondary. Maybe this is the week where Darnell Mooney gets that 60-yard catch downfield, right? Maybe this is the week that they maybe take the training wheels off just to see what Justin has this week and let him air the ball out downfield, because arguably that is his greatest strength, is the deep ball. I mean, that's what the dude does best. And Quinten, you've discussed it, I know, on Twitter and in your articles as well, about the big time throws, and how even last season he had more big time throws than he's already had this year. It really does feel like they're not taking the training wheels off yet. This almost, to me, is the game. If you're going to do it. Like, let him air out the ball a little bit and see what happens. Don't just rely on him to have to make all these complex reads if it's not working. Let him play a little bit of street ball. Run the hell out of the football like we just talked about, because if nobody can stop you, why stop doing it? And who knows what happens. But I think I agree, Quinten, especially after being there in person and now seeing some of the all-22 after the fact and some of the missed reads. And I was like, oh, Justin, my dog. But I still have enough hope where it's like, we're only 3 weeks in, thankfully, right? It's not week 9 and we're sitting here saying this conversation. It's week 3 going into week 4. Let's see what happens. But holy hell, it would be sick. And I love Scott's thought process. I don't know if this happens, but he says the Raiders are 1-6. The Bears trade for Devontae Adams at the deadline. I don't know if they want that cap hit on the books, but
yeah,
I would love to see Adams torture Green Bay for the next 6 years. That would be cool.
Honestly, yes, the Raiders would eat so much dead cap on that. I think that'd be a no-brainer.
Yeah, the Raiders have been lighting money on fire for years, though.
Yeah. But on the big time throw thing, it was last season, Justin Fields did not go 2 consecutive starts without at least one big time throw. So the longest he went without one was a single game. He hasn't had one yet this year, which is telling. I mean, part of that's volume. He hasn't had the throws, but really it almost seems to me like I don't want to say like they're playing chicken, because that doesn't make sense, because that implies that they're trying to do this. But like Fields, I think he's pressing. Like when you look at the 2 interceptions from last week, he's sitting there. He's trying to make everything perfect. He's trying to squeeze that ball into a tight window with 3 defenders around Mooney, instead of hitting Mooney back shoulder on the sideline where Mooney turned to and was thinking the ball would go. He's not trusting what's around him, and he's saying, I need to be perfect because I can't trust everyone else. And that's where it's kind of like, I think he needs to let go a little bit on that and just be playing a little more free. And the offense isn't going to give him chances until he earns the trust either. So that's why I say it's a little bit of a game of chicken, of like, the less opportunities he gets, the more he's pressing and trying to be even more perfect. And the more he's doing that, the less opportunities he's getting, because he's getting less and less trust from the play caller. So it's like they both need to just, I mean, I don't know what they need to do. That was just a term, but they both are. It feels like what would be best is if they both let up on the reins a little bit and just kind of wipe the slate clean and say, let's start this thing fresh. Let's get this right, and let's make some plays.
You also have to remember, too, that Justin Fields has never had this period of poor play or really been a part of a losing team. Not that we are this season, because we're 2-1 right now. But if things continue along this trajectory, like, we probably will not be a winning team when it's all said and done. And I think the point you make, like, he's trying to do too much, like, just do your one of one. Do your one job and trust, like you said, that the people around you can do theirs. And that's how you find the best teams in the NFL, right? But like Ron also said, new group, you rip the team down to its studs. It's a lot of new guys. The receivers that are making plays are some of the new guys. If we can get Equanimeous St. Brown to start one-upping Amon-Ra St. Brown, then the offense will be pretty damn good. But I'll take what we're getting from him. But I saw a Notre Dame football graphic this week with Cole Kmet on it, and it was like 2 receptions for 40 yards, and it was like team leader. And I'm like, that's so sad. Like, that's just so fucking sad. And it was 2 catches. You know what I'm saying? So I think Dude, we don't need Justin Fields to be what he was the last year he was in college, but we need him to be somewhere in between where he is now and that quarterback, because what he's giving us week in and week out, in addition to the fact that his opportunities are now becoming less and less, like they don't throw the ball down the field, as one of the commenters here on Facebook said, Brad Mason. They really don't take any shots down the field. And you brought in all these receivers, right, that are deep threats, that are fast receivers. Justin has a big arm. What's the worst thing that can happen? You throw a pick and your quarterback learns a lesson? Like, and well, we fucking saw it. Those were some ugly picks out there on Sunday. But yeah. Moving forward, you got to test the defense.
Yeah, I think the combination of Justin's turning the ball over so far and the offensive line not giving him enough time for, a deep shot generally. Like, they've held up okay, but not on deep shots. I get worried that, Justin taking a bit deeper of a drop, changing that angle for the edge rusher. I think keeping Justin in a more shallow pocket helps Braxton Jones a bit more because he can just push his guy up the field. And Ron, you'd be able to comment on that better than I would, I think. But I think that part of that is the offensive line getting their footing, getting their chemistry together. Because you also got to remember, none of these guys really played with each other last year. I think it takes a solid 3-4 weeks for the O-line to start to gel, which is one of the reasons I'm even more impressed by the run blocking. But Ron, I'll let you talk on the impact of the O-line.
Yeah, and this is something I'm trying to get pen to paper on, but life gets crazy and everything. Hopefully before the end of the week, I'm able to do so. But yeah, I mean, especially from a run blocking perspective, I think it's been so impressive. There was a clip that I saw on Twitter just the other day, and it was from one of the runs, and it literally was perfection, right? They ran inside zone, and on inside zone, you're taught as a lineman, right? You work your stack concepts. That's how you run inside zone. So, if you're running it to the left, your left tackle and your left guard usually have an end in whoever that stack linebacker is. Center, backside guard, same idea, right? That first D tackle and your stack linebacker respectively. And then usually if a tight end's involved or something like that, you might run, or if a fullback, which we've seen the Bears do right with Blasting Game, you get that fullback who's might kick out an end or might, lead up for a backer or might even cover the backside backer. And then you're working kind of a scoop block with your tackle to either get to that backside backer and cut him, or either you're just staying home and you're letting that fullback handle. But nonetheless, perfect double team blocks from Whitehair and Patrick as those backside guys on inside zone. They've been really, really, really good. Craig Morgan's doing something right from a run game perspective with this group because they have been fantastic, not only just obviously from a result standpoint, but technically sound on tape. And then, yeah, to your point, Q, from a gelling perspective, there's a lot of communication that goes on the O-line that I don't think a lot of people truly understand unless you're like a football dude, like, or you played or you're just a hardcore fan where, especially in the pass game, right? Run game, it's a little easier. It's a lot easier in the run game because in the run game, it's, hey, we're working these guys and either, maybe the guy's in your back here and he's like, I got him, go, 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 and then it's get up to the second level. That's about the only communication in run game. In pass game, it's wildly different. You're talking out blitzes, you're talking out stunts, you're talking out everything. And to your point about Jones, right? If your quarterback is taking too deep of a drop, it goes from your traditional, 45-degree angle kick step more into almost a lateral kick step. But by laterally kick stepping, you open that inside that much more. And that's what the DN wants. He wants the inside route, right? Just like insider trading. It's the easiest way to making money. The inside route's the easiest way to the quarterback, baby. That's the exact way it works. And so I agree with you. A lot of it is trusting where your quarterback's going to be too, because that helps you sometimes set up your blocks. Just as in the outside running game, a running back can set up his blocks for the offensive line. It works the exact same way in the passing game. So I think it's really going to I think that's partially what's taking so long too, from a communication standpoint, right? There was a clip. It was Fields, I want to say it was an incompletion, or actually it might have been a sack. And Lucas Patrick got beat inside by I believe it was a 3 technique. The problem was though, it was slide left protection. So for those that don't know what I'm talking about that are listening right now, slide left protection is you have a lock side in pass pro and you have a slide side in pass pro. The lock side is, hey, I'm man on man with these guys. And then everybody else slides and picks it up. And obviously communication's involved and it's not that simple, but that's the general concept. In this case, the lock side was the right side. Borum was one-on-one with the D end. It was Patrick on the tackle. Mustipher starts the slide looking to the outside to help Jones and help Whitehair. And this is where that communication comes into play, guys, because on that play, Mustipher has a hand toward Patrick, and he's looking left. But Whitehair's guy goes outside of Whitehair. And yet Mustipher keeps kicking, and then Patrick gets beat inside. That's an instance where you can give a little more as a center and work with your guard while still keeping your eyes here. That way, if that guy does come back inside, it's, hey, he's you, push him off, and then you're trying to pick up that guy if he beats Whitehair inside. And to your point, that is all gelling and communication. There is no place on the field where you are living and dying as a unit as the offensive line. And I think you're really seeing that with the pass game right now.
Yeah, and I mean, they've exceeded all expectations because if you remember before the season, we thought, we don't know what we're going to get from this unit. It's probably going to be a terrible unit. And they've at least covered one of their 2 bases, right? Like the run game looks phenomenal. The pass game is a work in progress. But it also helps to have a quarterback that is putting the ball on the money and making plays, not that they're not going to block for Justin, but it makes it a little bit more rewarding when you're hammering your helmet and your shoulder into 300-pound men play in and play out. It sucks when you look up and your quarterback's not completing passes downfield, right? So It all kind of breeds into each other confidence-wise, and I think the offense has had its moments. I saw this stat. I cannot confirm nor deny if this is true, but the Bears are 4th in big plays. If there was a truth to that statement, go ahead.
I've got this in my article. It's the only reason I mention it. It's not actual big plays, but it's big play percentages.
Okay.
So
the amount of times they call one?
No, amount of times that they've generated one as a percentage of their total plays. Okay. They have gotten a 20-plus yard pass on 11.1% of their pass plays, which is 10th in the NFL. That's actually pretty solid, but they've only run, 45 pass plays?
Yeah,
so,
the problem is,
but on run, they've gotten a 15-plus yard run on 6.1% of all runs, which is also 10th in the NFL, which is outstanding when you think about how much they've run.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with the receivers and tight ends really not finding that rhythm yet, I think Ron brought up a good point that it's like, why not just go into New York and let it rip? Like, they don't have a great secondary. Their pass rush is a little bit banged up going into this week. They're on a short week because they did play on Monday Night Football. And I think with this team, you know what you're going to get when you go and play the Giants. It's a power running team. They're going to try and run Daniel Jones a lot. They're going to run Saquon Barkley a lot. There's going to be RPOs. It's almost like a college level offense. Well, guess what? We run a fucking high school offense. So it's going to be a college offense versus a high school offense. But maybe we'll get a little bit more passes sprinkled in there because it is disgusting football to watch, right? When we're sitting back and this is supposed to be the guy that is supposed to be our savior from the quarterback position, phenomenal player in college, has not really if you gave me Justin Fields' game logs or his career, I couldn't sit back and definitively tell you that this one or that one was his best game. You know what I'm saying? It's all just kind of been like a little bit here, a little bit there. We've seen flashes in certain games. And I think right now, the most important thing for Justin, especially the person, is that he needs to just block out all the extra bullshit because the Chicago media, like we said at the beginning, is kind of getting him not necessarily in trouble, but just like the way he's answering questions is not going to go over well with our meatball ass fan base. But I'm not doubting that this is not a kid that works hard. We know he's a hard worker. We know he's committed to being a great quarterback for this organization. It's just we're not seeing the results, and we're all frustrated. Fans, the people in the organization, Justin's pissed off about it, but until we see something better, we have to have these conversations where it's like, yeah, we might have to look in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the guy. I can't, talk about his personality, but he comes across as the kind of guy who is tortured by his failures. And
yes,
I don't imagine that he's taking any of this lightly. And I just hope that he finds some fun in the game, because I don't think it's going to get better until he starts having more fun.
That's the perfect point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, football is fun. If it's not fun, it becomes harder and harder to succeed at. So I hope that they have some fun out there Sunday and nail some throws against the Giants secondary.
Yeah, agreed. I think that, building off your point, Q, it really does feel like Fields is putting too much pressure on himself. And maybe you don't see it from an outside perspective, in the sense of he's like, oh, I got to be the best, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. He's a quiet dude from that aspect, but you can definitely tell from a confidence aspect, from the way he carries himself, he is probably beating himself up on the inside. And maybe that's a conversation with, your coaching staff or whatever. And it's like, hey, man, just play ball. You got the instincts. You got the talent. You're here for a reason. Like, you're not some, guy that we just took a flyer on as an undrafted free agent or in the 7th round. You're a first-round quarterback. You're clearly
it's not Chad Powers.
Yeah. It's not Chad Powers. It's not one of these guys. It's not like you're just taking a shot in the dark and seeing what happens with Justin Fields. Like, he's a first-round talent for a reason. Just go out there and play ball, baby. Just go out there and play ball. I would argue that Justin Fields played the most just play ball in week 1, really, from what we've seen so far, right? Like, he's going out there and, he's making shit happen. He's throwing back across the field to freaking Dante Pettis for touchdowns, and that throw he made to, St. Brown on the 2nd touchdown was great. Like, that's what you want to see. And it almost feels like he's maybe trying to do too much. And there was one play in particular where he ends up having to roll out and get away from it, and he's able to run, and it was the big run that he had, where he stood in the pocket and had to escape pressure. He had a Quantum St. Brown wide the hell open off on the sideline for an easy first down. Sometimes that's where, hey, man, you don't have to get and let that, 2nd or 3rd read open up downfield. Just take that first read and run with it, baby. Live to see another day, run another play, and something too that I see, and this is a bone I have to pick, and I want to get it on record really quick when it comes to quarterback play. Everybody's like, oh, well, the guy down the field on the other side is wide the fuck open. Yeah, do you understand how reads work, folks? Just because the guy's open, he might be the 4th read on the play. You got to go through your read progressions, right? He might only get to the 3rd read before he's got to start scrambling around and take his eyes off from downfield. He might not get to that 4th read. But at the same time, maybe sometimes he's passing up reads. And we don't know. We don't know how the offense is constructed. I don't know what his 1, 2, 3, and 4 reads are in every play. But maybe that first read's not there when he looks, and he's waiting for that 2nd or 3rd read to open up, knowing it could be a deep play. Again, sometimes less is more. Just take the not necessarily a check down, but just take your first read, get the ball out quick, and see what happens and keep it moving. And I think if he does that this week, you will then see those big time throws downfield that he does thrive with. And maybe, just maybe, to Q's point, that's enough to loosen him up a little bit, remind him that to have fun again. And maybe we do start to see him settle into more of that, what we saw in Pittsburgh last year quarterback versus what we've seen through 3 weeks so far this year.
And I think my thing is too, and I had these thoughts earlier, was none of us actually ever account for how fast the NFL game moves, right? Remember, Ron, you probably played football at the fastest level, and I would like in terms of like how quick the game moves, how fast the people actually are out on the field, how athletic they are, and stuff like that. But like we're talking about split seconds on inside of another second that these decisions have to be made. All while Justin is always dodging somebody, right? Like he's always trying to get out of the way from someone. The pocket's collapsing here. He has to locate that guy there. It's a tough position. There's a reason why quarterbacks get paid the money that they do, and they're looked at in just in general in sport. Like it's probably the most prestigious position out of any position in any sport is the quarterback position in American football. It's probably not even close, to be honest, now that I think about it. But offensively, we have to be able to play with what our defense gives us because defensively and special teams have looked good. Like Trenton Gill, solid punter. Don't want to see much of him, but when he comes out, he does his thing. And Cairo Santos, I mean, he misses. I'm pretty sure he missed one out there on Sunday. Did he not?
I didn't catch it if he did.
Okay, maybe he didn't. I might be
Yeah.
wrong, but I know he has missed one so far this year. But you get a game-winning kick out of Cairo Santos, and I just think right now the only unit that's not pulling its weight is the offense. If we had the offense pulling their weight right now, this is a team that we're talking about is getting into the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
That's the
Justin
biggest hump.
Fields. If he took a step and started to look like a quality quarterback, suddenly you're talking about playoff picture for the Bears, like real playoff picture.
Yeah, not just me like sending a graphic of us like actually in the playoffs if they started today and playing the Rams. But this time now, with us being 2-1, bought us like an extra week or two on the in the hunt graphic, so you can anticipate. You know, when you're sitting down for your turkey at Thanksgiving, you'll at least see like Chicago Bears 6-7 in the hunt, like at least with a breath of air in our hopes. But defensively, the Giants don't scare me this week. We'll go through the injury list because a lot of their players that are on the injured list for this week that didn't participate are defensive players. So we'll start with the players that were limited participants because there's only 2 of them and the rest of them did not participate today. So the 2 limited participants are Aaron Robinson and Justin Lane at the cornerback position. A little bit of star power on the injured list. Leonard Williams did not practice. The remaining players all did not practice. That would be a little bit easier to say. Jihad Ward, outside linebacker. Kadarius Toney, receiver from Florida. Haven't really seen much from him at this level. Did not practice as well. Sterling Shepard actually tore his ACL on Monday Night Football. Have no idea what's going on with Wan'Dale Robinson as he has been on my fantasy football bench all week. Or all season, not all week. But Nick McLeod, cornerback, former Notre Dame guy. He spent a year at Notre Dame after some time at NC State. He did not practice as well. And then Cordell Flott. So in total, 4 corners, 3 receivers, a D end, and an outside linebacker on their side of the injured list. So initial thoughts about that in ways that some of these guys aren't out there. How can we attack this team?
Was Azeez Ojulari off the injury list?
He is not on there, and this is the one on the Bears' actual website. So maybe he was like a late addition to it, but this is the one.
Oh no, he's probably back healthy then. He hasn't played yet this year, but yeah, I know he was like maybe supposed to be back on Monday night, so he's probably back this week. He's their edge rusher. I think he was a first-round pick a year ago. So
on ESPN on the roster, he doesn't have like an injury letter listed next to his name, so he's probably good to go.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a quality player, but I mean, if they miss Leonard Williams, that's a big boost for what I think they can do because he's got game-wrecking power. I mean, he is just such a powerful player. And all the cornerbacks on that list is definitely a little enticing.
Yeah.
Just the thought of it.
Sling the rock.
Yeah, like a catapult.
And honestly, their linebackers, from what I saw on film, I believe it was their 2 starters who I saw on film, and they give a lot of cushion as it is in the pass game. So kind of like what Ron was saying, taking what's there. I mean, if they play this game anything like they played against the Panthers, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in that first 10 yards past the line of scrimmage to get a guy with a lot of room for yards.
And look at how the Cowboys ran the ball for them on Monday Night Football. I'll pull the official number up while you guys are talking. But the Cowboys, every time I looked up, they were breaking the run.
Yeah. Yeah, and in agreement. I mean, when you're missing a key cog in the defense like Leonard Williams, that just, if I'm the Bears looking at the injury report right now, I'm just screaming, well, sorry, Justin, at least for first and second down, we're running the absolute hell out of the football, because they were so successful against a fairly decent Houston Texans front. I'm not going to say they're atrocious, but they were okay. They're a decent front seven. Who's to say that the Bears can't do what they did this week on the ground against the Texans, against the Giants? And the beauty of that from the Bears perspective is you keep Saquon Barkley off the field, who's probably the biggest X factor in this game offensively for the Giants, especially with all the injuries at receiver and obviously the big question mark that is Daniel Jones at quarterback. Like, you got Saquon, and Saquon's looked like Saquon so far this year. Run the ball, and then when you have the opportunity, the beauty of being able to run the football, especially for a quarterback like Justin Fields, is then you can take shots. And they need to do more play action. Like, keep establishing the run, and then run play action. Let Justin Fields, fake, outside zone to Herbert and come around on a boot and just unload one down the seam. Why not? That's when you got your chances, and you can do that on first and second down once you've established the run game. Second and mid is the perfect opportunity to take a shot in all of football, in my opinion. 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. Take your shot, because chances are you're going to be able to pick up 4 to 5 yards on third down if you really, really, really needed to.
So,
and there's
I now
plenty
have
in the
a
playbook
theory.
to do that.
I now have a theory on some of that. Thanks to Olin Kreutz on him and Jason McKee's podcast. He was talking about, and I believe that some of these happen on second down or third and short, where on some of these boots, we've been seeing Justin just getting killed, right? The free man on the edge is not buying it, and he's just coming straight.
Second he rolls out, he's got someone underneath his chin strap.
Yeah. And Olin was talking a little bit about that, saying on a lot of these plays, they're going out there with packages, right? They have that they're either going to kill the run or they're going to say we can run at the line of scrimmage. If they can, they're going to hand it off. If they kill, they're going to do the boot. But when they're coming up there with a design rollout, we're passing the football, we're rolling it out. No need to kill anything. No need to yell can. Just go run the play. The fact that they're not yelling anything is tipping off the defenders that this is a pass play. That was an observation that Olin had that I thought made a lot of sense, because I've been sitting here scratching my head like, how the hell do these edge defenders just know that Justin Fields is going to have the ball here? Why are they not buying it at all when they're getting gashed in the run game? So hopefully if they fix that, and that is the solution, I hope it's that simple. Rarely is, but I hope it is.
No, but it's a good point, because I listened, ironically, a Giants defensive end, Kayvon Thibodeau, was talking on an interview with the Uninterrupted crew. And he was talking about his jump and getting off the ball, and how in college it's so easy to get a jump because the snap counts are so basic, right? It's set go, or it's hut or something simple, right? And it's boom go, or these guys are taught to read patterns. That's what you have to do when you're this elite of an athlete, especially at the NFL level, right? It's either the head, the center is going to bob his head, or the center is going to do something. Like, there's reasons the best pass rushers are the best pass rushers, because they find those little tips and tricks that hit when the ball's going to be snapped. It's the same way with designs at the line. Why do you think Peyton Manning was such a menace even late in his career when he was throwing ducks? Because the guy was the king of dressing shit up at the line of scrimmage. That's what he did, right? We all make fun of it, and now he's making millions off of it. But the Omaha, right? Like, he would go up to the line, and he was so vocal every down, you had no idea what they were ever doing. And that's a really good point, right? Because if I'm a defender and I'm sitting there and they're, hey, hey, kill, or hey, Ken, let's go, whatever. And then they come up and they don't say shit. I'm like, oh, what does this mean? And after seeing it once, then I don't need to see it again. I know what's coming, right? Like, right. It's just identifying patterns. And that's why the best play callers and the best, field generals in the league are so unpredictable, right? You look at Tom Brady is unpredictable. Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees were the king of the hard count because they're unpredictable. Unpredictability equals success more often than not in the NFL, right? And just in football in general. That's what the Bears need to become. They need to become more unpredictable on offense. And if they become more unpredictable, even if it's as simple at the line of scrimmage before the play, that's only going to benefit them, because then you don't allow these elite athletes and these truly elite students of the game. You're not just some boneheaded knucklehead that doesn't understand football. You make it to the NFL. Like, you need to understand what is happening. These guys look for all these type of little tips and tricks that they can find to get an edge. You got to take that away from them. And otherwise, you're going to have, as Bdon said, you're going to have a dude, with his helmet under your chin strap as soon as you go to roll out.
Yeah, and we talked a lot in the preseason about, like, okay, it's the preseason. This is a vanilla offense. They're not going to run what they want us to see for the regular season. And here we are in week 4. And outside of running the football, I couldn't tell you shit about our passing offense other than it's terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are our concepts? What are we trying to attack? Like, all that type of stuff. It's just kind of like, we pass as a means of survival when we are simply too far to run for the required amount of yardage that we need on that play. And the element of surprise, the element of Justin Fields playing that backyard brand of football, and like you said, rolling him out, getting him out of the pocket, getting him on the move, because the fact of the matter is when Justin Fields is on the field, at any given time, he could be the fastest person on that field. Yes, obviously we don't want him to run as much as we want him to throw the ball. But you can use your legs to evade pressure, still stay behind the line of scrimmage, because I know that was an issue that we've seen so far this season with him moving around the pocket and then letting go of the ball past the line of scrimmage, something he's got to work on. He can still make stuff happen, because as you've seen in week 1, like with the Niners, he moves around, he gets out of the pressure, and then he finds a guy for a touchdown. When we keep him in the pocket and when we keep this offense predictable, we could put 11 people from Montap together and probably hold them to under 20. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know who would play corner. That'd be a tough ask of any of us. But I think in the front 7, we got enough beef that we'd be good to shut this Bears offense down.
Buzz seems feisty enough to play corner.
Yeah, I think Buzz might be a good safety, though. If we put Buzz at safety, like have him roam, I think that'd be better.
Put Ricotta at corner, dude. He claims he's fast, man. I want to see the speed shown off.
Yeah. Fast at drinking beers, maybe. He did message me back. He's at work right now, so maybe he's tuning in with us.
Oh, hopefully. Well, hopefully, yeah. And then he can confirm what his speed is for us. But no, I'm in complete agreement with you, man. I think it really comes down to, right, because you see so often in football where a quarterback's athleticism doesn't necessarily mean he has to run the ball every single play. And I remember they were talking about it during the Sunday night game against the Packers, where Rodgers is considered the best B-gap quarterback in the NFL. And what they meant by that is every time he steps up in the pocket, those B-gaps open up in terms of the rush for him to escape out and move laterally down the line of scrimmage, he takes it. And that's where he dices and kills people, because then he gets out of the pocket and the receivers know to go in a scramble drill and just get open. And more often than not, it works. Justin Fields can do the exact same thing, but it's also just having that comfortability in the pocket, knowing and just being aware of your surroundings. And I think that is just going to come with reps, but he needs those reps. He needs to be able to sit back there and actually throw the football. And he needs to just have the confidence too that, hey man, it's okay to just roll out of the pocket and take your, I know we used to give it shit, but the 3-yard curl is okay every once in a while. Just don't run it on 3rd and 5 when it's 3 yards. Like,
is that the real problem here? He's so burnt out of the curl route.
Yeah. The Matt Nagy offense. The 3-yard curl is forever haunting his dreams on a daily basis. But no, man, I mean, that's really just what it comes down to. And I agree with you, Bdon. Just use your athleticism, but it's okay to just keep your eyes downfield and see. And again, do what the defense gives you. We saw it in that Browns game in the preseason. He did a lot of.
That's what I wanted to see from him every week this season. Was the way he performed that game.
Yeah, he looked good. And I think a perfect example of that was when he got flushed out of the pocket and he had to make a move on the DN and rolled to his left, and he found Equanimus St. Brown on the sideline it was only like a 7-yard game, but it was a first down. And it's like, that works, dog. Do more of that. We like that. That's okay. Not every play needs to be 20 yards downfield. Football doesn't work that way. If that was the case, it'd be like the Arena League, where you could just roll back and chuck it up for a 6'6" receiver and say, come down with it, baby.
Well, that was a perfect analysis, because our former coach was an Arena League quarterback. But
yes, he was. So much so, I actually saw him play live when he was an Arena League
fucking psychopath. But on the topic of the Giants' run game, because we did get a little bit off the rails there. So they gave up 176 yards. They allowed the ghost that is Ezekiel Elliott to average 5 yards a carry, and Tony Pollard averaged 8.1 yards a carry. So, dude, give it to him from every single angle. Throw the ball deep, throw the ball short. Run the ball deep, run the ball long. Score points, find a way to win this football game. But on our side of the injury report, it's not terrible, but it's not great. So we'll start at the bottom. Roquan Smith, limited participant. My theory on this is Roquan kind of just came to an agreement with the team, like, hey, I'll do this, but not that until you figure out what the fuck's going on with my contract. So he seems to be on it every week, and he seems to come out on Sunday and be absolutely fine, and the same Roquan Smith that we see week in and week out and that we love.
Yeah, keep playing the way he did Sunday. I don't care if he's hurt or not.
Dude, I was jumping at that pick. Like, when Roquan does good, I get a little bit more happy than when anyone else does good on the team. He's my guy.
Yeah, I agree. I actually had that hunch, too, of like, yeah, they might just throw him on the injury report, and he gets the veteran Wednesday treatment where he just doesn't practice, or practice is limited, depending on how
youngest
sore
player
he is.
in league history to get it.
Hey, that's okay. When you're racking up, what did he have? 16 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and a pick?
Game-sealing pick, yeah.
You do that shit, I don't care how old you are. Just keep doing it. That's great.
So looks like he's figuring out the Eberflus defense now.
Yeah. Also listed on the injury list, should be no surprise to Bears fans, did not participate, listed as an ankle or knee injury, or ankle and knee, David Montgomery. So, thoughts about that?
Montgomery, I mean, he's a cyborg, man. We've seen him supposed to miss a month and come back a week later before. I think that's what they're banking on. Like, they're just keeping it quiet until they find out if he's going to be able to go or not. Because, I mean, it looks pretty bad. And it seemed pretty bad, but I've said that in 2020. I said it in 2019 at one point, I think, and he kept coming back and being good to go. So, I mean, we won't. I don't think we'll know a whole lot till we get more info, but I think they're probably optimistic till they have a reason not to be.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, too, at least the one comfort that the Bears can have, especially after week 3, Khalil Herbert obviously named FedEx Ground Player of the Week, 157 yards on 20 carries with 2 tutters. You know you have a capable guy that can run the rock if need be, if Montgomery needs a week to sit. So I think they feel comfortable. Hey, we don't need to rush him for a chance to win because we know we can have Khalil Herbert in there and he can run for 150 and we have no concern. So that's kind of how I feel about it. But I agree. I think it's just going to be a question mark until it's not a question mark when it comes to David Montgomery.
God bless the books not adjusting to Khalil Herbert anytime touchdown markets after the Monty injury, because I got Khalil at plus 400 last week. We'll never see that again for the rest of the season. But
no.
It was fun while it lasted the one time I got it. I'm not worried about the running game. I think Herbert needs more reps. I think after seeing Ebner fumble, we could use some more reps, maybe in less pressure situations. Maybe we get up a little bit and get a couple more carries. But the running game is not what I'm worried about going into this week. More players here on the injured list. So Velus Jones, a limited participant, could maybe see him. I'm not a source, so don't quote me, but would love to see some Velus Jones out there, especially in an offense that cannot find a way to throw the ball down the field.
We saw him going through drills in practice. I think he's close. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see him play this weekend at all. I mean, he was running through drills and running through like tackling dummies and stuff. That's more than we've seen coming out of practice for him all year. I mean, I think he's probably playing.
Yeah, in addition, Eberflus said that the intention is for him to debut this week. They had their plan, and it didn't, it wasn't working out initially, obviously, because he kept getting set back. But they said at least after today, it seems like the intention is for him to make his Bears debut this week in Week 4.
Dude, I would love that. And yeah, I pick him up in fantasy, hammer an anytime touchdown. Just give me every form of Velus Jones and hopefully our future number 2 receiver, right? Because you draft a guy that high, you want him to be a big impact on your
offense. He heard everyone ask him if he has an AARP card yet. He's motivated.
Yeah, no, he's walking around the facility with a cane and a walker. Another, I was going to say another young gun, but another second year or less player on the injured list, Jalen Johnson. No, this is his third year, actually. And he was a do not participate for quad injury, as you guys know. We missed him out there last week. Saw some guys step up in spots, not for the full course of the game because there was still some broken coverages, but they held Brandon Cooks under 30 yards, I think it was. And anytime you can do that with someone's number 1, you got to be proud of the guys that stepped up. But this week, we could live without him, but I'd like to have him with us this week,
Yeah, just having his intelligence out there. Brian Dable is going to throw a lot of stuff at you to try to shake your coverage, try to fool your coverage, try to get them to bite on something that's not real, and then have, a shadow coming behind them that's wide open. Just having Jalen Johnson's experience and IQ out there would be a major help with that, regardless of the talent at receiver, just because Dable is a bit of a magician. He has some great play calls and some great play designs.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, from what I saw, they said Jalen, he's not entirely sure if he's going to play this week. I think that's something that we need to keep our eyes on. But it was nice seeing guys step up and at least get the job done last week against the Texans. And I think this is a receiving core with the Giants right now, especially given their health, as we've discussed already here. Things are looking up where, maybe, just maybe you have enough to get the job done in your secondary, even without Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, and then the last 3 guys on the list are Ryan Griffin, limited participant, Dane Cruikshank did not participate, and then Matt Adams did not participate as well. So a little less high-profile guys, but still guys that contribute on special teams, still get out there and get after it for our Bears. Not going to say they're unavailable, but 2 of them did not participate in practice, and it is Wednesday already. So,
yeah, no, the first 2 weeks, I haven't checked the snap counts from last week yet, but I know the first 2 weeks, Griffin played a surprisingly high amount of snaps, and I think he has a lot of trust with this coaching staff. I think that goes a long way, and that's a guy who they clearly like to have in the huddle. Can't speak too much on Cruikshanks. I don't think he played last week either. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
And then Matt Adams. I mean, I'd love to see Jack Sanborn getting more snaps out there.
Yeah.
In his absence, Adams has played well, but I'd love to see what they got in Sanborn out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like technology made us lose Ron, but we'll try to carry this segment on because I didn't have too much left for today's show. But key player on offense and defense for this matchup against the Giants.
On offense, I mean, I went Tevin Jenkins 2 weeks ago. I wasn't on the show last week, but part of me wants to go Tevin again just because Dexter Lawrence is a handful.
Quite literally, that's a big guy.
But you know what? I'm sticking on the O-line, and I'm going Lucas Patrick back at center. I'm assuming he's going to be back at center. And I think having him out there for all of the snaps, all of the line calls, all of the shout outs, the kills, the anything, everything, I think he's going to be able to take stuff off of Fields' plate and make sure the O-line is firing on all cylinders throughout the whole game, because that's why he was signed, was his knowledge of this offense. And I think having him out there for every snap, making all the line calls, is going to be a major, major help to this offense.
And then what about on defense?
On defense, I'm going with Bojack, Eddie Jackson. I mean, I think Daniel Jones is going to give you opportunities. I mean,
He is going to turn the ball over.
he's going to give you
can lock
chances
that
to
up.
take it away. Not that you can't always take advantage of it, but he's going to give you chances.
Yeah, for me on offense, let's get him out of his shell, man. Let's get Darnell Mooney back. Let's get the good long down the field passing plays that Ron was talking about. Let's get a 100-yard game from Darnell Mooney. We can usually only get like 120 from field, so let's get 100 over from Mooney, right? But I'd like to see the passing game settle in and take opportunities against a passing or against a pass defense at a secondary that is a lower third unit in the NFL, and an opportunity to get this offense kind of rolling going into the rest of our season. Because as you start to get into later weeks of the season and you are as predictable as we are, those games are going to get ugly. You have to have that element of unpredictability. And on defense, it's going to sound crazy because I haven't said anything nice about him yet this season. But Kyler Gordon. Let's get a Kyler Gordon game. Let's get maybe a turnover, maybe a couple more pass breakups, maybe a lot less yardage given up. Just show me something out there on Sunday, Kyler Gordon, that makes me not jump off the ledge. Because right now I'm like, when it rains, it pours. And coordinators and quarterbacks, especially veteran quarterbacks, are going to take advantage of young players like that. I don't think Daniel Jones will this week, because Daniel Jones is not that great of a quarterback himself. So I look forward to seeing him progress and hopefully give us a better performance out there on Sunday. But Ron, as you dropped, we were just going over key players on offense and defense for this weekend.
Yeah, I think a key player on offense, I think I'm going to go a little bit out of the box with this one. I'm going to go Quinten St. Brown. And I think the reason for that is he's kind of stepping up as this sort of go-to guy. Obviously, the sample size is incredibly small, but it feels like every time he gets the ball, good things are happening. And especially where, Darnell Mooney has maybe struggled a little bit so far this year, and whether that's been just schematically or whether that's been just because the pass game has been ass. Quinten St. Brown still finds a way to get the ball. So maybe a big Quinten St. Brown game would be nice. And maybe that is what Justin Fields and the rest of the passing game needs, is just somebody to be that guy for this game, and you can get back on track. So he's my offensive guy. And then I think defensively, we were talking a little bit, pre-show, as we always do here, and we talked a little bit about Evan Neal. Tackle or guard or whatever the fuck he's playing now for the Giants. So my guy is going to be Travis Gibson, because I think that's going to be a lot of Travis Gibson against Neal, and Gibson already leads your team in sacks so far this year with 2. I think he adds that and maybe even gets to double that, gets to 4. Neal's been bad. He's been leaning a lot over his pads too much. His balance is all over the place. Q, I think you said it perfectly. He just looks lost at times. Andrew Thomas is doing the exact opposite on the other side of the field. He might shut down Robert Quinn or whomever is rushing from that side. Whoever's going against Neal, though, have yourself a day. I think it's going to be mostly Travis Gibson, so he's my defensive guy.
So Quinn plays against the left tackle almost exclusively, so he'll be against Thomas all game most likely.
There you go.
So lunch meat on the other side, though, and honestly, too, Travis Gibson. Talk a little bit earlier about how Justin Fields needs to get back to having fun. That's a guy that has the biggest grin on his face every single Sunday when we win and throughout the week and practice and all that. When we lose, he's obviously pissed off, but he's having fun. He's playing well. And most importantly, he's becoming a leader at a very young age on that defense. Because he kind of looked around and he's just like, all the leaders that when I got here, the Hickses of the world, the Khalil Macks of the world, they're all gone. Now it's just really me, Roquan, and Robert are the staples. And then you could throw Jalen Johnson in there, the staples of that defense, Eddie Jackson as well. But a lot of
he was a team captain at Tulsa, by the way.
Yeah, so stuff that when we put together our draft profiles for next year, next to the very fun fact that's not an actual fun fact, or is a confirmed real fun fact, you find stuff like that. And anytime you draft players that were captains, Fields was a captain at Ohio State. You can definitely tell the difference on how they act in the NFL, right? A lot of those guys are different in the locker room. But this game, the Chicago Bears are underdogs again. They are 3.5-point underdogs. And for you guys, I would like your score predictions of this game.
I am going with, I forget what I put in my article. I think I said 22-16 in a very weird score, and I'm not sure how it gets there, but that was my initial gut feeling for some reason was 22-16. And then my process for this is I have my gut feel. I write it down. Then I go look at my models and see what they say. And I had a model that said 22-16. So I was like, it was meant to be 22-16.
That's amazing. Plus, weird scores are so much more fun anyway when it all comes down to it. I'm going to go a little bit along the lines of an odd score, but maybe not as odd as Q's. I'm going to go with a Bears victory, but by form of a 27-19 game. I don't know why 19 is a fun number right now for me, but I'm feeling 19. So 27-19. I think in order, if the Bears break out, if we see a good game from Justin Fields throwing the ball downfield, and if they just continue to run the shit out of the rock like they did last week, I think 27 is incredibly attainable. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go with 27-19 Bears.
My heart says 24-12. But my brain says 17-12. This was an offense that struggled on Monday Night Football. And I know the Cowboys' defense is a lot better than people will give them credit for. But this is an offense that hasn't really looked good at any point of the season. They haven't been scoring a lot of points. They're kind of in the same category of offense as we are. They kind of know what their identity is with running the football, but they also want to know what they have in their quarterback in Daniel Jones. So like to Quinten's point earlier, could get a couple turnovers. But we're no slouch on defense. It shouldn't be easy to score on us, right? Bold prediction, we don't give up a single touchdown on Sunday. It's 4 field goals. I will be engaging in the gambling on the Bears on Sunday on the money line. I do think this is a game that they have a great opportunity to win. And you look at the schedule any which way you want to, but the schedule only gets harder. So these type of games, as I said in my preseason article for the win total, which looks great right now, obviously you still got to get to 7, but you win the games you're supposed to win, and you win a couple games that you're not supposed to win, and then, hell, the NFC doesn't look great as a whole. There's no reason why at the end of the year, if the team progressively continues to get better, why we can't get that 7th spot. And I know the expectations, insert the expectations are so low meme, but – like, if we can get a 7th spot in a year that we don't even know who we are, right? The quarterback hasn't played well. It's a stopgap year, really just kind of putting random players in random spots, picking up Equanimus St. Browns and Nicholas Moros and random people like that and making a roster out of it. If you can get to 7 wins or anything above that, hell, 7th spot in the playoffs, we can't say shit about it, right? It would be a masterclass by Eberflus, and hopefully it would help us at least get better free agents next year, right? I know we're not a huge free agent podcast, but if the team is doing well and there's players in positions of need next year, as opposed to going to a 4-12 or 4-13 Chicago Bears, they like to go to a team that maybe went 7-10 or 8-9, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But starts on Sunday. Fuck the Giants. And one thing too, I want to bring to our attention. It's an awful field. Probably the only field that is worse than the Chicago Bears field currently in the NFL. So just be weary of guys going down because of this field. It happens week in and week out, regardless of who plays there, whether it's the Jets or the Giants. The turf monster gets someone at MetLife week in and week out.
I'm asking you guys this because, one, I suspect there's a possibility that you have the same problem. And 2, I suspect that a handful of our listeners have the same problem. Is this the week where I finally sit Darnell Mooney on my fantasy team?
Yes, but it's a sacrifice that we have to make as Bears fans, because in order for Darnell Mooney to do well, we can't enjoy the fruits of his labor, right? So we hammer the over, he goes under. We start him in fantasy, he doesn't play well. You sit him in fantasy, he breaks every Bear record this Sunday.
You're telling me it's my fault. I see now. That makes a lot more sense.
It's our
was gonna
fault
say,
as
it's-
Bears fans.
It's the
not just
collective
your
we. Yeah.
fault. Yeah. Yeah, it's
All
our
right.
fault.
You heard it. You
Because-
heard it here first, folks. We got to sit them.
We can't have our
Oh,
cake
sit 'em.
and eat it too. But yeah, so that's what'll happen to me, right? I'll start Khalil Herbert this week, and Monty will have a brand new knee, and Khalil Herbert will have 6 carries. So maybe I have to start Khalil Herbert, but that's just how it is for us as Bears fans. We can't have our cake and eat it too. And to this point, though, is Mooney's not going to play like shit for 17 weeks. So eventually,
Yeah.
you're going to have to go out on a limb and say, hey, this is the week that Darnell Mooney gives us 100 yards. I might just sprinkle a little 100-yard action just for shits and giggles. I can only imagine that's like plus a lot of money. So
All right. Well, he's going to be on the bench then.
yeah,
That makes me
figure it
so
out.
sad.
Yeah, I mean, the offense will hopefully get in a get-right spot, a get-right game, hopefully put up some points, but my expectations are not very high. I think the highest score prediction that we had was Ron at 27. So if we can find a way to get 27, dude, you will see the biggest smile on my face because that, with the way our defense plays, you score 27, you should win a lot of football games. But do you guys have any wrap-up thoughts before we wrap up the show for today?
Just go get a W. Let's go 3-1.
Let's get Justin out of that quicksand.
Find a way to win a football game. This was Bears on Tap, presented to you by On Tap Sportsnet. I'm your host, Brandon Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at Bdon300. You can follow my co-host at Loose on Tap for Mr. Ron up in the top right corner. And then Mr. X's and O's on the bottom half of the corner, or the bottom half of the screen. I said corner. In the middle corner, right? Quinten at Butt Piss Stats. And then Joey, who is not with us today, but I can anticipate will be with us on Sunday. He can be followed at Joey Knows Nothing as well. Stay tuned Saturdays and Sundays because he puts out a slew of picks as well as Quinten and myself as well. But we do appreciate you for listening. We'll be back to you guys Sunday afternoon right after the final whistle, hopefully to recap another Bears victory, find a way to get to 3-1, and anything can happen in this season. But we really do appreciate you for listening, and Bear down.
Bear done.
Bear done.